Been together so long we can't pretend. Remember the way we used to move, dance all night like young lovers do. Your heart is changing. Now we don't dance like we used to. Silent disco on the floor, baby. Mr. DJ, he'll get me through. When the beat's gone, you can't save me, baby.
This is Broad Radio. For you, by you. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Hello and welcome to Broad Radio. This lovely Tuesday, I'm Jo Stanley. My co-host today is the delightful Angela Pippos. It's so awesome to have you back, Ange.
Oh, it is so good to be back in the warm arms of Broad Radio, escaping from politics for an hour.
Yes, you have been a little absent because you've got something very important that you're doing right now.
That's right. I'm a political advisor for Independent for Goldstein candidate Zoe Daniel, friend of the show.
Yes, she joined us on Broad Radio last year when we first launched, and I honestly pinched myself that she happily joined us as a co-host, and now she's doing something even more important.
Well, that's right. A friend of hers who looks a bit like me talked her into running as the independent candidate for Goldstein at the federal election. So I've been pretty busy, but it's energising.
Wow, I'm going to ask you all about that in just a moment because I'm fascinated. I've had for the first time an insight into what goes on when you are launching a campaign for a seat in the federal parliament. It's really quite extraordinary. So I'm going to ask you all about that in just a moment. Also on the show, what an amazing show we have. We have woman of glorious talents and one of the stars of 9 to 5, the musical, Casey Donovan, is joining us. I'm beside myself.
Same.
I mean, if she's not one of the most incredible talents of Australia, I don't know who is. I mean,
the best thing about this show is I get to meet extraordinary women who I would never meet otherwise.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm super excited to chat with Casey. Also on the show, one of our regulars and one of my favourite, she is a fearless commentator and writer, Kerri Sackville. She has a new book which is called The Life-Changing Magic of a Little Bit of Mess, which honestly, I feel like she's had a little look into my own life and my own house. So I'm looking forward to speaking with Kerri. And in about half an hour or so, we're going to be talking about breaking free of the rigid upbringings that some of us have had due to cultural or religious repression with poet and author and performer Koraly Dimitriadis. She's an incredibly fresh voice in Australia, and we're excited to have her. And that's all starting after this. Broad Radio is proudly supported by Chemist Warehouse. Chemist Warehouse, great savings every day. So as we always say, if you are joining us live, do please share your comments and your thoughts and your questions along the way, whether that's on Facebook or YouTube. We'd love to hear from you, and you can always catch up on previous episodes or even go back and listen to this one again on podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We're called Broad Radio on the Go. Check us out. So, Ange, you say that you and Zoe started on this campaign because you convinced her to run. How did that come about?
So before I came on board, Voices of Goldstein had existed for a year or so. That is the grassroots group that was concerned about democracy and improving democracy. And they wanted to run an independent candidate in the seat of Goldstein, which is in Melbourne's sort of Bayside area and just across the other side of Nepean Highway, suburbs like Caulfield South, McKinnon, Bentley. They came to me to sound me out and, would I be interested, or do I know anyone who might be interested in running as an independent? I said, I'm not your woman, but I know someone who may be interested. Zoe had come back from 4 years covering Trump as the ABC's Washington bureau chief. She was starting her own business. And I thought maybe this timing would suit her. I wasn't sure. And then when I rang her, I did say, "Are you sitting down? I have an idea." And she was like, "Oh, Pip, what now?" We have a 30-year friendship. So we've been getting into mischief for the best part of 30 years. And she said no at first. And then she let the idea just sink in with her family for about 2 months. And in the end, it felt like the right thing to do. And her kids and her husband supported her. In fact, her son, who's 15, said, "Mum, we need you to do this for the country," because Zoe stands for, smart climate policy, integrity, equality. She's a hardworking, compassionate, smart woman. We can do with a few more of those in Parliament, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing so many putting their hands up. This independence movement is really fascinating to me.
Yes.
There's a lot of people who perhaps never have thought of voting for an independent because it feels as though, well, my mum said to me, well, it's a waste of a vote, which is sort of an old way of thinking about our system of Parliament, I think.
We've got to bust that myth. And that is an obstacle for the independents, because a lot of people have that knee-jerk response, like your mum, that it is a wasted vote and it's going to create all this chaos. It won't create chaos. What it does is it introduces some sensible, independent thinking people into the Parliament, people who aren't afraid to bring up new ideas, who can debate policy in a respectful and intelligent way, who can go where the major parties don't necessarily want to go. So the problem in this country with the two-party system is that such important topics get weaponised.
Yes.
So we can't even have a sensible, proper discussion about climate or about respect for women, because the issue gets weaponised. So, bring in the independents. They can raise this. They can introduce their own bills to Parliament. They can be that sensible centre in Parliament. And, who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
At the moment, it's chaos. So that's the answer. It already is chaos because of the really low level of debate in Parliament. And over the past 2 years, women, what we've seen in our nation's capital and the way that such important matters have been dealt with by our leaders, we need change.
Yes.
This is an important election. You either stick with the status quo or you can choose respect and honesty and decency and sensible, economically focused climate policy. To me, it's an obvious choice. It's a really important time in the country because we've got an opportunity to reshape this great country of ours. So I'm exhausted on the one hand, but I'm energised because it's really important. And I just would love to see Zoe sitting on that crossbench.
So what's your role within the campaign, and how does one run a campaign as an independent?
My role to start with was media advisor. And I thought, I understand that. I've been a journalist for 30 years. I'll be getting Zoe out there in the media and creating awareness about how fabulous she is. But in a small team, you end up doing a whole lot more than just that. So really, I'm media strategy, policy as well. I'm involved in writing the gender equality policy. I'm ironing her clothes. I'm doing whatever she wants me to do.
Chief handbag holder.
Handbag holder. On all our street meets when we're in the community meeting people, I'm looking after Zoe's bag, so I am the bag carrier. But I love it. I love it because I believe in Zoe and I believe that this is an important moment in our country's history. So I'm doing a bit of everything.
I think what I love about the independence movement is communities feel like they're not looked after necessarily by their Member of Parliament because they are beholden to the party that they belong to.
Yes.
And I'm really excited to see so many independents say, I'm from this community, I look after your interests. That's really important. And I'm seeing already people are making comments on our Facebook. HA says we need to break the binary. There's no diverse discourse in a two-party system. Like, it is a really exciting time. But also I want to acknowledge that the people that we're seeing running as independents already had extraordinary careers.
Yes.
And there's some sacrifice to this. They're walking away from well-paid dream careers to answer a call.
Absolutely. And they are bringing their life experience to this. They're not just people who have been political advisors who want to one day be Prime Minister. There are a lot of them like that in the system already. Zoe brings a wealth of experience. She has covered just about everything, politics, business. She was there for Trump. She saw the rise of Trump. She knows the danger signs that lead to that. Let's face it, America, one of the greatest democracies ever, is no longer. That 4 years of Trump, she saw that. So she brings that experience to it. We've got in Kooyong, Dr. Monique Ryan, who's going up against Josh Frydenberg. She has come from the medical world. So these women are bringing so much experience to it, different perspective. And I mean, gosh, I would just love to see Zoe and a few others also get elected where they can have an influence in shaping policy. And you're right, they've come from the community. Zoe is the community-backed independent candidate for Goldstein. She went through a selection process. She is representing the voices of Goldstein. It's very exciting.
It is very exciting. I just want to mention before we move on to our very exciting first guest, Katrina is a little concerned for you because she says it sounds like scope creep in your job, Ange.
Yes.
Which does happen.
I know. But you know what? Because Zoe's my very good friend of 30 years, you do go the extra kilometre, right?
Well, yeah. And essentially when you are, it's like being a startup founder, a small team with a very limited budget. You're just kind of like, oh, all right, I'll do that too.
Yes.
But I do appreciate that concern, Katrina. I think it's well worth pointing out.
Thank you, Katrina.
All right, it's time to welcome a woman who has been a dream guest for us on Broad Radio pretty much since we began last year. She is, I think, one of Australia's most glorious voices and is truly a glorious person to boot. I have loved watching her career just grow because I was on radio when she won Australian Idol way back when, and she's now starring in 9 to 5, the musical. Casey Donovan, it is so lovely to see you.
Oh, thank you. Good morning.
Oh, well, so those of us who are old enough, remember 9 to 5, the movie, which of course, with Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, what a fun, extraordinary, groundbreaking movie that was. And now you get to be with Marina Pryor, Erin Clare on stage every night. What a hoot that must be.
Oh, it is absolutely joyful each night, night after night, day after day, getting to interact with strong, powerful women, independent women who just love doing their job. And we get to tell this story of 9 to 5, night after night of, how it was back in the day. And still to this day, there are a lot of things that really haven't changed that much. So there's still that emphasis on, women empowering other women and, getting equal pay and just being humans and, deserving everything that everyone else gets. So it's a very powerful message we get to portray night after night, and of course with a lot of joy and fun and laughter.
I remember watching that film, and at the time, I was young, so I didn't realise how significant it was to have 3 women protagonists in a film, and it still is quite rare to have it. What have you been told about the original film? Is it, and how accurate a representation is what you're doing on stage to the original film?
Look, it's an adaptation of the film, so Pat Resnick also wrote the musical that we get to perform. So, having a TV movie and a musical kind of go hand in hand. So the great thing about the musical is we get to inject music into it and tell stories through song as well as, you know, as actors and storylines. So I feel like the musical kind of fleshes out more of the movie. So the things that you don't get to see, there's that really amazing back in the 80s dream sequence that the women do, and, you know, trying to portray that on stage when you're already acting as a character, then kind of going into a dream sequence. So it's kind of like an acting of an acting of an acting scenario. So that's always quite fun when we get to the rooftop scene. But, you know, it's still very much true to its word, and, you know, keeping females empowered, and the fact that women still aren't getting paid the same as men, and the fact that we're still having these conversations. And Marina Pryor has this amazing line night after night, and Caroline O'Connor comes down, and I don't want to give too much away, but you know, she comes down and Caroline's like, you know, what's going on, what's happening? And Marina's like, you know, maybe in 10 years this won't even be a discussion anymore about equal pay for women. So that usually gets a cheer night after night. But yeah, it's a great musical. It's fun. It's 2.5 years in the making, because it was supposed to go up in 2020, and, you know, the pandemic knocked everything about, and I got the opportunity to audition for Judy, which was never really on my cards, because I just never saw myself as playing Judy Burnley. And then to get a call saying, can you please put a tape down so we can send it off to the director and in the States to see if we can, you know, get you on board. I was very much privileged and grateful that I got that call, because now I've got some work up my sleeve. But it's a great show to perform, and I get to perform with, you know, Marina Pryor and Caroline O'Connor and Eddie Perfect and Erin Clare and the whole ensemble. It's a hoot. It's a bloody hoot to go to work.
Also, I mean, playing Judy, she is, I recall from the movie, she's the one who's newly separated and has to kind of get back out into the world and find herself again. I imagine there are women in the audience who say, yeah, hell yeah, I know that experience. Do you sense that from the crowd?
Oh, very much so. Judy's storyline throughout the show is her whole world has come crashing down. She had a husband that she, you know, Judy's thought process is you make a good wife, you make a good home, you know, make it comfortable for the husband, and then the husband goes off and cheats with the secretary, and then what's she to do? She's got to go out and get a job. So through this whole storyline, her arc is just like, she's so vulnerable and wants to learn and eager, and then she's, you know, gets put down because the boss is a bit of a, you know, an asshole, and then she kind of gets back up there, and then Dick comes back in, and it's just this whole storyline of building strength and having hope, and then losing hope, and then finding two beautiful women that she can talk to and, you know, interact with, and then she finds her strength through those interactions. And watching, you know, Marina Pryor play Violet, you know, her strength through her character is something that Judy kind of goes, oh, well, I can do that too. You know, what's wrong? Why can't I be a powerful woman? So Judy's beautiful arc is that beautiful moment when she gets to the end, and I get to sing Get Out and Stay Out to Dick, to his face. And it's that pinnacle moment where Judy says to herself, I'm not doing this anymore. You're not going to tell me what to do. You can't control my life. I'm a new woman. You don't know me. This is who I am now, and this is who I'm going to be. And yeah, it's just such a moment, and I feel the audience day after day just embrace that song and embrace Judy's moment to stand in her own worth. And I get to feel empowered every night by Judy, so it's a beautiful thing.
And you get to perform against a backdrop of a women's uprising in this country at the moment. Do you also sense that bigger picture of what's going on? Because we've had a couple of years where women have been blatantly disrespected, and our leaders have not responded adequately to situations. Do you feel like that the political context is strong as well?
Oh, very much so. You know, the feeling of women coming together, and especially in the audience, you can certainly feel that push. And, you know, I feel like at this point in time and throughout the last decade, women aren't going to stay quiet anymore. We're not going to stay still. We're not going to keep our voices, you know, to ourselves. We're going to make noise, and we're going to make change, because if we don't start to make a little bit of noise and a little bit of change, things aren't going to get any better for us. So, you know, the more women can empower women and stick together and not be snidey or, you know, the B word, we're going to be able to change the world. And yeah, I'm all about empowering other women and getting to a place where we can just have discussions and not arguments, just have normal discussions and listen to each other and have that conversation, to not table our anger, but table how can we move forward? How can we, as, you know, women in some form of, you know, whatever the world wants as celebrity, but you know, how do we use those platforms for good? And how do we show other women that if we help each other up, we can make amazing change and we can make this world turn around? So yeah, I think there's a lot of conversations that are going to come out of this show, and you know, with those conversations there comes a lot of joy, because it's musical theatre and we get to enjoy it and have fun and just be able to do our jobs again, which is amazing, and have 3 strong women leads. It's bloody amazing. You know, women in this industry is just it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
I wish I could do that.
What? Singing the show?
Yes.
I need to explain, Casey. Angie's a frustrated singer, but her family won't let her sing at home. So,
Right.
I'm not deterred by that. I still sing very badly. I enjoy singing, despite
good on you.
what the others say in my house.
You know, Casey, you mentioned using your platform, and I know the word celebrity is weird, right? But, you know, you have a very large platform. You're very, very loved, and I think you have a really important role too, because women and girls see you and are very inspired by you. I don't know if that sits well with you. How does it feel? Because I know that, you know, you hosted What Does Australia Really Think, which was, you know, the episode you did was examining attitudes to obesity. You've spoken, you've got your autobiography, Big, Beautiful and Sexy, where you share so much of yourself. You share your relationship as well on Insta. Like, how does it sit with you that people may be looking to you as a role model?
Look, I mean, I can only live my life to the best ability that I can live my life. The fact that people get to look into that window is a beautiful thing. And I feel like, the more positive stuff we can put out there and, you know, just give people hope and love and a choice to go, oh, cool, I can do that too. Yeah, amazing. I think that's pretty special. And I can't talk on anyone else's behalf but mine. But, you know, I've always been a very open book and shown my vulnerabilities, because I feel like a lot of people feel like they cannot. So for me to kind of come out and just be unapologetically myself, that's all I can be. And if people can take a little bit of strength and courage away from that, I mean, that's amazing.
I am absolutely obsessed with your relationship with Renee. Just from watching the photos on Insta, you two are adorable. I mean,
she's pretty cute.
There's some serious relationship goals there. I've told my partner, my husband, that we need to get some matching pajamas in the way that you and Renee have. How has it been, sharing that relationship with the world?
Look, it's been great. You know, I was speaking last night, and I was just saying, for so much of my life, I've been alone. For the big parts of my life, you know, being able to do all these amazing things and not have anyone there to share that with or to talk about the excitement. It kind of hit me last night. I was like, I've been doing this for so many years on my own, and to have her there and to share in that and share in the joy and excitement and, you know, sometimes the down days and how I'm going to navigate getting through some tricky situations. It's great to have a soundboard and to have someone so level-headed and someone that is as equally open and honest, and it's such a beautiful thing. And we really are kind of, you know, the yin to the yang, and, you know, we talk constantly, and just I have found that communication is the key, and having those weird, awkward conversations where you're like, oh, I don't know what this is. Those conversations are important, and that's what's, you know, kind of taught me a massive lesson, because I've had so many people come into my life that have, you know, screwed around with my vulnerability and taken me for a ride and, you know, kind of blurred my reality because of my vulnerability and me going, oh, this feels kind of weird, but you said it was okay. But then I'm like, oh, I'm fighting this, inner voice to go, oh, maybe this shouldn't happen. And I found throughout my whole life, whether that's been, the catfishing situation or in my business world or things like that, there's always been people that have come in and I've allowed them to do that until the last kind of few years where I've grown and I've found this growth and I've gone, no, I don't accept that anymore. And it's always weird and it's always going to feel awkward to make change, but those changes are awkward because you're shifting into the person you're becoming. And I found that so interesting, and Renee has certainly helped me in the last few years to build on that strength. And yeah, I can't wipe the smile off my face these days. Which is pretty bloody cool. Yeah.
Oh man, shifting into the person you're becoming. I love that.
Such powerful words.
Yeah.
Really important for other women and other people to hear that. It's so important. Was this lockdown love? Am I right in saying it was love in lockdown?
Yeah.
Yay!
It was love in lockdown. I just moved from Sydney to Melbourne and literally got into Victoria when the border shut the first time back in 2020. And I was, in this new house, in this new area, and I could only go 5 kilometres from my house. And I kind of jumped online, and we always have a giggle. And it was by pure fate and chance that Renee and I matched on Bumble and had our old Bumble stumble. So that was, it was, everything happens for a reason. And I believe we all end up exactly where we need to be. So, it was by chance. And I just keep saying, like, do you think we would have ever crossed paths if we weren't on that good old site? But, she's just a beautiful, beautiful human.
Oh, I love it. A couple more things I need to mention before we let you go, Casey. Firstly, I love your mindfulness podcast, The Space. You have so many elements to you. It's hard to know where to begin, but mindfulness is a daily practice for me. What does mindfulness mean to you?
It just means to be in tune with you. It means to, sit with yourself and sit with your thoughts and sit with emotions, which most people I found during the pandemic, I feel they didn't know what to do because they'd never sat with their thoughts, and they'd been so busy going to work and, picking up kids and going to training and doing all these things that the minute the world just went, nah, actually, we're not doing that for 2 years, everyone kind of just went, is this me? Is this what I do? Is this so? Having that mindfulness podcast and working with The Space has been absolutely amazing. And so many people have come to me and just said, this has really helped me. This has really shaped who I am. I listen to it every day. And it's the one thing I love about this podcast in particular. There's no BS. It's just, we talk about everything from, having wine mindfully, having sex mindfully, having all of these things and doing it mindfully, not beating yourself up about it, and finding ways that you can enjoy the little things in life and be mindful. And once you kind of tap into that, life kind of just opens up and you're like, oh, wow, I don't have to get angry at everyone on the road because they don't know how to drive. I can just sit here and be like, well, maybe they're in a rush. Maybe they're having a really crappy day and I'm just sitting here blasting my radio and enjoying the day. So I'm just going to stay in my lane and enjoy that and let them do their life. The mindfulness podcast, The Space, is absolutely brilliant. And it's so good.
I just, everything you just said there is just speaking my language, and I love that you're saying it, because there's just like, I actually love a traffic jam. Like, I love being able to just kind of sit in my space and go, I'm just going to breathe for a bit, and I'm just going to allow the world to do what it does. But you're right, people struggle with stillness, really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It
is true,
but,
yes.
The world is helping people now, give people the tools to be able to identify what's going on and break it down a little bit. And I think, the more we share things in the world, the more this world becomes a better place.
So, and very quickly, of course, music. Like, are we hearing new music from you soon? I absolutely loved Blues Day Tuesday during last year when you did your Facebook Lives. Are we going to hear new music from you?
We certainly are. I've been doing a fair bit of writing in my downtime and also in my busy times. But yeah, I'm very excited to be bringing out some new stuff. I've been working with some amazing writers and just, yeah, getting this new groove. I mean, the one thing about me, as you said, you know, I do so many different things that when I get to come back to my love of music, I'm like, ooh, what do I want to write today? So it's, you know, I always like to say it's a mixed bag of lollies, but there is new music coming. I'm very, very excited. And also being able to do the Blues Day tour that was postponed last year at the end of this year in November. And also I've got some new cheeky dates through September. So I'm very excited to get that out there. And just, it's just a night of just me basically doing what I did on Blues Day, which is stuff around a bit. I don't bring the cats on tour though. So,
It's a shame. I did love the cats. Yeah, amazing. We've already had someone give a review on our socials saying that you absolutely stole the show on Friday night. I think Pip went along. So we can't wait.
Pip.
You're in Sydney at the moment. Head along to 9to5themusical.com.au to get your tickets. And I know that you're touring as well. And I'm hoping that someone like Ange would be able to sing along to 9 to 5. Surely the audience goes nuts when that song starts.
I did it in front of the class back in the 80s. I did sing the song.
Look out.
And, you know, that's probably why I am the way I am now.
So I'm guessing singing along is absolutely welcomed.
It is certainly welcome. And yeah, we love when people just jump up at the end and dance and sing about. It's such a joyful experience. So hopefully everyone can get along to see it and have a great night at the theatre.
Oh, thanks so much, Casey Donovan. It's been an absolute joy to have you on Broad Radio.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right, well, she's been waiting very patiently because we couldn't stop talking with beautiful Casey.
How wise.
Oh, my God.
So wise. And, to be able to sing like her.
It's true. The wisdom that she brings in this, she's very centred.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
But I think we need to welcome our next guest is one of our regulars and author and commentator, and she has a new book out just in time for Mother's Day. It's called The Life-Changing Magic, The Life-Changing Magic of a Little Bit of Mess. Kerri Sackville, sorry to keep you waiting because of Casey Donovan.
Kerri Sackville, who is not centred or wise and certainly can't sing. Sorry, guys.
Here's the juxtaposition.
It's good, yeah. The light and the shade.
That's right.
I'm the shade.
Well, when it comes to mess, let me tell you, I feel like I take it to the next level. And you say a little bit of mess. How much is too much mess, do you think?
You know, I'm not advocating that we live in filth and squalor. You know, there's a certain amount of cleaning that we need to do to stop things like maggot infestations and weevils in the pantry, of which I actually have quite a bit of experience. And in fact, sitting here, I'm looking at a pile of ants in the corner of my room right now. But they're friendly ants, and we kind of have an arrangement. We don't bother each other. But, you know, we don't want dirt and squalor, but what we do want is a bit of disorder, a bit of disarray. Disarray is okay. And I really am advocating for letting your standards slip just a bit and seeing what happens. You know, once you stop madly cleaning and tidying, there's room for all sorts of other things. I mean, you'll have time to start a podcast, for example, do some mindfulness.
Yes. In the book, you talk about striving for cheerful imperfection. I love those two words together because I think that's a really good aspiration to have. Cheerful imperfection.
Thank you.
How do we...
I agree.
But how do we... I mean, I'm the daughter of a domestic goddess, right? My mum, married dad, stopped working, so really had a lot of time to devote to the family and the house. And I've been burdened with a little bit of that sense of order. So I need that in my life. But I'd like to sort of unshackle myself a bit. How do I do that?
Oh, I've got a whole program for you in the book. So the last part of my book is literally a program for people like you who are living bravely with neatness. And I want to congratulate you on taking this first step towards unburdening yourself because it is difficult to live like this. I know people like you. I'm not one of them, happily, but people like you who can't leave the house without making your bed. That's really tough.
Yes,
you
that's
want
me.
to get out the door, but you see the unmade bed and you've got to go to it. People who can't walk past, a finger mark on the wall without running for the cleaning spray. So I have a whole program to help you. There's affirmations, like disarray is okay. Nobody has ever got to the end of their life and wished they'd spent more time with their steam mop, right? Nobody's ever fallen in love with someone because their grouting was so spotlessly clean. And so I talk about all the ways that a little bit of mess can actually enhance your life. Yep. So, for example, it makes it so much more comfortable for your guests. You don't want to intimidate your guests with your perfect house. I don't want to come into your home and feel inferior because everything is so perfectly ordered. I want to feel, a sense of comfort and ease knowing that you're as slovenly as me, basically. And so there's a program where you can gradually desensitize yourself. So it starts with, leaving, say, a cup on the table for a few minutes longer than you normally would. And then you're progressing to kind of having a Great Dane run into your house after he's romped in the rain, and not worrying about all the mud. So it's a gradual thing. We'll get you there, I promise.
So, but this is my question, right? Because it's so interesting you reference your mother. I'm certain our generation of women have been heavily influenced by the women that raised us. My mother has instilled in me this fear of being seen as someone without a clean house. Like there's real shame attached to what will people think if they come in this house and it's filthy, right? And her version of filthy is like, it's not filthy. So I go to your house, Ange, and it's immaculate. Is it always like that? Because I make my house immaculate only when I know people are coming for fear of the shame.
Well, I was at your place on Sunday and it was gorgeous.
Yeah, but only that day. Only because people were coming. So much of what we do as far as our routine and our notion of keeping a clean or messy house is about, I think, what people will say about us. Do you think?
So much. And I've got a whole section in the book about how we need to stop saying, please excuse the mess. Like, don't excuse the mess. We all do it, and we do it to a point where, I've walked into people's homes and they're saying, please excuse the mess, and literally the house is immaculate. There might be one dish in the sink. And I used to do that. I think I write in the book that I was excusing the mess to tradesmen who turn up. They're going to make mess. Why am I excusing the mess? And what I write about, and I think if we all actually take a moment and think about it, we'll realize it's true. Nobody cares about your mess. I have never, ever gone to a dinner party, for example, and said, the food was great, the company was great, but my God, there was dust on the skirting boards. So I just couldn't enjoy myself, or I love my grandmother, but I hate going there because, she leaves dishes in the sink. Nobody cares about that. They care about the warmth and the hospitality that they experience. They care about whether or not you've got chocolate in the cupboard. That's a really important one. They care about whether you offer them wine or coffee, but they do not care about a pile of laundry on the floor. And in fact, it is much more comfortable to sit and drink a glass of wine on a messy sofa that's already got a few splatters on it than on a pristine white sofa where you're scared of actually spilling a drop onto the pristine white carpet, which has actually happened to me. And that friendship, unfortunately, did not survive. But that's okay, because I have other messy friends.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think to know me is to know that I will spill red wine.
What is the solution? What is the correct way to handle the red wine on the carpet? Oh. Did you learn that?
Do not have a white carpet. Do not have a white carpet. Obviously, Ange. Come on.
Very good.
We have coloured carpeting, multicoloured, lots of dark hues of red. So a little wine stain will go completely unnoticed. That is the solution.
Yes. Get a nice Persian rug with lots of reds in it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I have a small house. I mean, part of the problem is I live in a small house. So when it's messy, you can't avoid it. You can't just sort of shut off one room. I mean, it's more difficult. Please, can someone agree with me?
No, I agree with you. I totally agree.
Space.
Yeah.
With my son's room, I do just close the door because that is a cave of mess.
He's 9.
Yeah. But it is difficult.
That's the key. Doors are the key. Yeah. I really do. I have a whole ode to doors in my book because doors are the key. And that's why we have doors. And that's why this whole thing about aspirational pantries is, I think, so ridiculous. You know, if you go onto Instagram and you see hashtag home inspo and you start looking at pantries, and people have these incredible pantries. In fact, I think Khloe Kardashian did a virtual tour of her pantry recently on Instagram. And everything is like decanted into different jars, and they've got the labels with the italicized font, and everything is in order, and you know, the wet stuff is at the back and the dry at the front. But the thing is, pantries have doors, and no one looks in them except for you. So I think anything that's behind a door, including a 9-year-old's bedroom, does not matter, does not count. Throw things in the cupboard, close the doors. If necessary, put more doors in your house. You've got a small house, put doors in the middle of the lounge room and just shut off that messy half. And you just keep a nice little alcove for guests.
I mean, I love that for some people there's great joy in having a pantry like that. Good on you, Chloe. If that's your bag, well done, right? It's not my thing. But I really enjoyed the chapter where cleaning is really a feminist issue, where it's about, you know, I certainly would say that my husband and I have different expectations of what a house should look like. Yeah. And I've really learned to go, you know what, I am going to step over that pair of shoes, and he's going to ignore, you know, the bra in the corner, which we'll get to in a moment, by the way, bras in the corner. But, you know, it is a feminist issue, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you know, a lot of people seem to think that men have some kind of problem with their eyes, that they don't actually notice mess, right? So we notice things, but they don't notice it. Maybe it could be a problem with their corneas, it could be a problem with their brain. But the thing that I realized is that when you look at men and their cars, they actually do notice the slightest issue with their cars. So they'll notice the teensiest scratch. They'll notice that you've, you know, left your coffee cup on the floor of their car. So there's no problem with their eyes. There's no problem with their brains. They just don't care. Right? They don't have the same standards. And in fact, that's a little bit aspirational. If they can move around their homes and not be worried by the socks on the floor or the coffee cup on, you know, on the sink, maybe we could, instead of feeling angry at that and frustrated by that, maybe we could adopt some of that don't care attitude. Like, for example, a lot of us are with our cars. I mean, look at a lot of women in their cars, and it's like a mobile rubbish compartment.
Oh my God.
I know that when when I have clothes, for example, to take to the clothing bin, they have to stay in my car for a while, I guess, to percolate. You know, you sort of, the clothes need a certain amount of time in the car before you can take them to the clothing bin. Maybe they have to acclimatise or just get used to being out of the house.
They're saying goodbye
They're
to you.
saying goodbye. Exactly. It's the grieving process. So there's nothing wrong with men. There's nothing wrong with women. We just have different standards, and maybe we can all learn a little bit from each other to let more things go, and then there'll be less conflict.
Yep, I agree. Just finally, I want to acknowledge Michelle, who's making a comment here that vacuuming is an anxiety management tool for her. And I do think that there are times when cleaning becomes... It is actually, for me, I use cleaning as the manual thing to do when I'm mentally exhausted from the thinking parts of my world. So what is the moment when you actually embrace the cleaning?
Yes. So I've actually, again, got a whole section in my book on what to clean when, because what I disagree with is the whole housework schedules that tell you exactly when you need to, when you need to vacuum. You need to vacuum on a Monday afternoon. You need to clean the light fittings on a Tuesday morning, and every month you wash the windows. I think we should all clean according to our mood. So I think Michelle makes a great point. When you're stressed or anxious, that's a really good time to do things like vigorous kind of scrubbing, like you go and scrub the toilets or scrub the showers when you're feeling anxious, because that kind of vigorous movement really helps to get out your anxiety. When you're feeling a bit stressed, you can go and do things like dusting and get into all the finicky little corners. Vacuuming is a really good one when you need that repetitive sort of soothing motion to just let your brain switch off and daydream. So I'm all about intuitive cleaning. Clean as you feel.
Yeah.
Follow your heart.
And so you must get the book. It's really hilarious and very, I think, freeing, and also not to make it about us, but there is a slight mention on page 6 in which you say I'm going to quote, me doing a live TV interview via Zoom with my wardrobe door open and my bras on full display, which was Broad Radio.
It was. You started off my career as a bra influencer, a bra-fluencer. And it's changed my life. I mean, it hasn't brought me any money or power or fame, but I have notoriety, and that's
it's
a good
true.
thing.
People have great respect for you. So do head out, get the book. It's super fun. Kerri, as always, we love having you on Broad Radio. Thanks so much, love.
Such a pleasure.
Bye.
My workout routine comes with me wherever I go, and so does Bondi Protein. It gives me the post-workout nutrients I need. Fuel your body with Australian-made Bondi Protein.
Broad Radio. Talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis? We've got you covered. Broad Radio. Here for more.
All right, well, I am a lover, Ange, of unique voices and people who live unapologetically themselves. And I think for women, sometimes that's very difficult. And I'm learning, especially if you come from certain kinds of backgrounds or households or families. So I'm really thrilled to introduce you to our next guest. She's a Cypriot-Australian poet and performer, Koraly Dimitriadis. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, Koraly, you are a fiercely outspoken writer. Your themes are very often about the experience of being ostracised or misunderstood or silenced because of a cultural or religious repression. Can you give us a bit of background as to how your upbringing and heritage have contributed to that voice of yours?
Well, I guess I got married really young at around 22 to kind of move out of home because I wasn't allowed to move out of home. And I felt that a lot of the decision making about my life was not mine. Like it was kind of like my parents, like, oh, what are you going to study? I'm going to study computer programming. What are you going to do with your life? Are you going to get married? Like it's just in the whole kind of culture. And I also was brought up Greek Orthodox as well. I just never questioned anything. I just kind of did what I was told. And I also had a lot of like anxiety, depression, was on medication from quite young. So I kind of felt like I operated my life in, I would call like a zombie kind of way. I just did what I was told. And it wasn't until I stopped the medication when I was about to have a baby that like all these things started coming into my head, like, oh, what kind of person do you want to be? And I'd always wanted to be a writer and an actor, and it was just never considered like an option in my culture. You had to be like a safe job, basically. So, yeah. And then when I had my daughter, I just started thinking like, what kind of role model do I want to be for her? And that kind of led to me realizing that I was in an unhappy marriage, and I kind of exploded out of my marriage and my culture, my religion, and kind of claimed my own voice. And it was a process. It didn't happen overnight. And I had no role models that I could look to. I didn't know anyone who'd been divorced. And, you know, it's like there was this thing inside me that just kind of like exploded out in poetry, I would say. And that started like my journey of being like a creative, basically.
So much of that resonates with me because I also grew up in a Greek Australian family, and there was sort of not so subtle messaging around marriage and having children early. Not so much from my parents, but the sort of extended family around me. So I was a big disappointment because I'm 52 and I still haven't married yet. But I found my voice when I went to uni. I discovered feminism, and that gave me all the answers that I needed. So there were a lot of vibrant conversations around the dinner table as I was introducing my family to feminism and me, you know, the real me and how I wanted to live my life. So
I guess journalism?
Well, I did an arts degree with a major in politics, and then I went on and did journalism after that. So I charted my own course, but I had to fight off some, as I said, not so subtle sort of messaging as I was growing up. I'm interested in, though, how you found your voice, and, you know, is poetry sort of your answer to my feminism?
Yeah, so I wasn't allowed to study art. It was like not on the table. So I didn't really discover feminism until um, when I came off my medication. As part of my therapy, I started writing a novel in secret. And it's unpublished. It's finished now. I'm trying to get a publisher for it. And during that time, I went to a talk of Christos Tsiolkas, who's a best-selling Greek Australian writer, and I told him I was writing in secret, and he said, "Oh, send me some of your work." And he read some of my novel and said, "You've got a really good voice. Can I mentor you?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he suggested going back and studying writing. And I think when I went to RMIT and I started mixing with all these writers and poets, and that's when I really discovered like feminism, and I started going to poetry events, and I started reading my work on stage, and so it kind of was of like an unraveling. And at that time I was like in my early 30s, so like to discover feminism at that time in your life is kind of a really like confronting thing, because it's like, oh wow, like what have I been doing, and what's patriarchy, and like I didn't even know what patriarchy was. Like it's just unbelievable. I think to myself, I thought to myself, I can't be the only one that is like discovering feminism at the age of 30. You know what I mean? There's other women out there like me that have had this repressive upbringing and don't know all these things. And because I didn't have any role models to look to, female role models of my culture, I thought, I have to help other women. So that helped me motivate me to do what I do.
I really love that you're open about the fact that you were in your 30s saying what's patriarchy, because I think there's sometimes a bit of elitism around feminism. There's an expectation that we should all be woke, that we should all be aware of our power, and sometimes it takes a long time to discover it because of your upbringing, because of what you've been surrounded by. And it's never too late, Koraly. I really love that. It's never too late to go, how can I become who I want to be now? And I think that moment, I certainly remember moments in my life when I've gone, I don't want to be this person. Who actually am I? How did you explore who are you?
I'm still doing it. And that's why, like, when I first came onto the art scene, like, people were like, who is this wog chick? Like, this naive wog chick? Like, that was, like, I'll get up and people would just be like, who is this person? Like, and it's a constant process of I still feel like I'm on the journey. And I remember an early review of my first poetry book, Love and Fuck poem, said this is reading like the diary of a teenager. And I was like, at the time I was insulted. And then like now more recently I'm thinking, well, that's because like I had the decision making taken away from me. So I didn't develop who I was. Part of allowing, with my daughter, I let her fall and get up and learn and make those decisions so she can learn who she is from an early age. There's a lot of anger involved there as well, I have to say, at patriarchy, at the culture, like that something was stolen from me. Why is it that at the age of, like I'm in my 40s now, why is it that only now I'm being given the permission after having to fight so much to actually find out who I am? And, that just really frustrates me. And that's why I do what I do. Like, and I never say I know who I am, because I don't. I'm still learning every day. I'm learning, and I try and be vulnerable and open with my poetry, with my art, with everything that I do, because I want women to know, hey, you know what? It's okay that you don't know. It's okay that you're scared, that you feel ashamed, because there's a lot of shame in the culture. A lot of shame. If I say anything bad about the culture, I'm a bad Greek girl. The other day I said something about the Greek priests on my social media, and like 10 people unfollowed me, because how dare I, a Greek girl, and I still struggle with that. Even though I'm unapologetic and I'm controversial, behind the scenes I'm shaking. Like, I still am fighting that shame within myself. There's so much shame in the culture and it needs to be talked about.
Absolutely. Are you going to read one of your poems for us?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to perform it, not read it. It's
perform.
from my poetry book, Just Give Me the Pills, which is my second poetry book. And it's called Surrender. Surrender. Give me the pills, I will drink them like wine, allow their brilliance to dry my tears, my marriage medication, stitching me up tight like good Greek girls. Give me the pills, bring forth the love. I want to smile, be the perfect wife, the mothering mother. I want to bury the beast, vanish into migrant myth, the one who lost the plot but found her way back, luckily. Give me the pills, I want to dine and dance at weddings, be dazzled by the dress, push prams around the burbs, gather at mothers' group mumblings, have dinner parties, cuddle on the couch, shop your money wherever. Give me the pills so I can become what is expected and understood, so my parents love me and my sisters approve. Give me the pills so I can become what everyone wants. Give me the pills, just give me the pills. Thank you.
Oh, I loved that.
Yeah.
I'm a big lover of poetry, and God, that was beautiful, this notion
Yeah,
of
poetry's cool. I'm into cool poetry, not like traditional boring poetry.
I like that as well. I like the traditional boring
Oh yeah, I like
poems.
that too. I like that too.
I like it
it's
all.
true.
Yeah, I
But-
like a bit of that sometimes too.
Yeah, but that notion that you're medicating yourself so that you therefore are what's expected from your family, and then to suddenly be able to break free. It's an incredibly courageous life that you have lived, Koraly.
Thank you. Thanks. It's hard work, but yeah, it's good.
I love it. You're very inspirational to me. I really relate. I come from a Christian family, so it's a very similar kind of sensation of going, actually, who am I now if I were to choose my own path? I think, a lot of women are in that space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
And
get a lot of women from different backgrounds, even just Aussie, religious backgrounds, saying to me, I did had that decision making taken away from me too. So it's a very common thing that, I think we need to talk about in order to heal. Not so much, I don't want to blame my parents. I love my parents. It's about healing and, coming to terms with who you are. And that involves actually just talking about it and connecting with others who've experienced it.
we all have the right to live the life we want and be who we are. And as women, we face a lot of societal pressures to be something else. So your poetry and this show and the things we do and say help other people. So all power to you, Koraly, and thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Koraly. Do check out Koraly's website, koralydimitriadis.com. You can find all of her writings there. And I know that you're working on a work where you're interviewing lots of women who have come from similar oppression. So you're looking for subjects perhaps for that as well. So do check out the website.
Yeah, the book's called Not Till You're Married, and it explores how strict upbringing affects how it manifests in the adult woman. So if you go to my website, you can see an email address where you can email me and you can take part in either the survey or one-on-one interviews. So reach out.
Amazing. Thanks, Koraly. Absolutely love what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, well, Ange, what a show.
What a powerhouse show.
Oh, my God, I'm obsessed with all three of the women we've had on and yourself.
I've missed being here. I really have.
Before we go, we have to, I think the world is speaking about the Oscars and what took place. If you haven't seen it, essentially, and I love the Oscars. I love it for the frocks and I love it for the one-liners that you hear from the hosts. It's usually a really fun sort of night or afternoon for Australians to watch. But yesterday, during a monologue that Chris Rock was doing, in which he made a very cruel and ableist joke about Jada Pinkett Smith and the fact that she has no hair due to alopecia, Will Smith stormed the stage and smacked him across the face. Thoughts?
My thoughts were, first of all, it was normalising male violence on the world stage. That's a very bad thing. When I tweeted something like that, a number of men were saying, but he was just standing up for his wife. We have a voice. Will Smith has a very big voice. He has a platform. He could have called a media conference. He could have issued a media statement. He could have got up there and used his voice. There are so many other things he could have done to condemn that joke. He chose violence. And what that does is it normalises it. And we live in a society where violence is a big problem. Not just violence against women, but violence is a problem. So I was disappointed to see it, because I knew that there would be people saying straight away that, what he did was okay because he was protecting his wife. But no, it's not okay.
I mean, we are called upon to be allies for each other. And most definitely that's a situation in which you would want to, not just defend your wife, but actually point out that alopecia is a very, very serious condition to live with, and it's not something to make a joke about, obviously. But you're right, there are many ways where we can be allies. And the thing that devastated me was it was such, apart from the violence, which is the biggest issue, but it was such a glorious, powerful night for women. We had 3 incredible female hosts. I will agree with the point that they made when they started, is that, now that we've got 3 women on the stage, it still costs less than 1 male host. They said it as a joke, but I think possibly it would have been true. And it really frustrates me when they get a female host, they have to get more than one. Yes. Why can't women ever host on their own?
Yeah, double standards.
I don't understand why that's the case. But on top of that, we had Jane Campion winning Best Director for her incredible film, The Power of the Dog, which coincidentally, ironically, is about toxic masculinity. We had director Sian Heder winning the Best Picture for the beautiful film Coda. And we had Ariana DeBose, who became the first queer woman of colour to win Best Supporting Actress. It was an amazing night for women, probably one of the most important nights the Oscars has had for women. And this is what the headline has been about Will Smith and his violence. Yeah,
their achievements have been overshadowed. And that is an absolute shame. I mean, Jane Campion is the 3rd woman ever to win the Best Director Oscar in its 94-year history. And this is a big deal.
Massive.
And, again, the limelight has been taken away by, a stoush between 2 men, which I'll say happened in the sports media a week or so ago, when there was a fight between a football club and a male journalist, and a woman was dragged into that. I feel what I want to do is, in my profession of sports journalism, I want to get all the men in a room and I want to explain to them what it's like to walk in my shoes, because we need allies. You're right. And sport is such a powerful vehicle to change society. But for that to happen, we need a critical mass of men in sport, whether it's the journalists or the clubs themselves or administrators, the athletes, to speak about this. Yeah. It can't just be the Outer Sanctum podcast and a few of us shouldering these really important conversations. So there's definitely, whether it's the arts or sport, I mean, women get used as collateral.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
true.
We do need men to stop being enablers and become allies.
Yeah. Allies in really important conversations. And as you say, what Will Smith could have done in that moment would have been extremely powerful. I mean, look, storm the stage and take the microphone, a la Kanye.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
He ripped the microphone off Taylor Swift, which I will never forgive.
Yeah, that's not cool.
It's not cool. Anyway, so that's been an unfortunate thing. I'm going to spend the rest of this week just heroing those women and giving them some space. And I hope that becomes the conversation now, and we all just sort of give them the due of that incredible moment in time. Ange, thanks so much for being a part of Broad Radio again.
Thanks for inviting me back, even though I've been a bad Broad Radio sister because I've been a little busy. This has been good. It's nice. It's nice to breathe, have an hour of hanging out with you and wonderful, wonderful women on the show today.
That's right. We'll have more Broad Radio next week, and we continue to support all of our independent candidates who are out there who are running whenever this election is called.
I think it's going to be May 14. We expect it'll be called this weekend.
All righty. Well, everyone, have a fantastic week. We'll see you next week on Broad Radio.
Gonna make some